We would like to thank Carl and Wingate for being here and supporting the voters of St. Petersburg. Today, the supervisor of elections posted a progress report that the petitions have reached the required number. The signers of those petitions are asking the city of St. Petersburg to cancel the contract to design the lens, or give the citizens the right to vote. Last year, 2 polls said 2/3 of the people did not care for the lens and to replace the pier. The city spent a year trying to promote the lens, and more than 2/3 of the people still 3 weeks ago said that they do not support the lens to replace the pier. The citizens want a better answer for St. Petersburg. We would like to thank all the people who have helped us gain the 2,600 petitions. We'd like to thank our business partners, those who collected thousands of these petitions, and we'd like to thank our volunteers who spent thousands of hard-earned, dedicated time getting this done. We said last November that we would give the city the opportunity to vote on the lens, and we have done that today. We thank you, and we thank the city and the petitioners. We're now open for questions.
What kind of campaign will you have going forward?
We will try to give the voters the proper information to be able to make a good decision about their vote on the lens.
What was your reaction to the survey, the most recent one, that showed that it was about 50-50?
Well, I understand that was 300 people. We just turned in 20,000 petitions for people who don't like the lens, and I think that's what we're going with, and those are registered voters.
Do you have any problems with the...
Could I add one thing to that, please? That survey was, Carl Nurse from City Council, that survey was 53-28, which is still a 2-to-1 margin. And so I know it was spun as if it was 50-50, but it was 2 out of 3 people who said they had a choice, favored canceling the lens contract.
Also, Councilman Newton, also you got to bear in mind that over 41,000 people signed petitions to have a vote on what happens on this waterfront. It doesn't belong to the elected officials. It belongs to you, the citizens, the taxpayers, and the voters of St. Petersburg. So calling 700 people at night, I guess is mediocre next to over 21,000 or 20,000 petitions signed by registered voters and verified by the supervisor of election. The same process we go through to get on the ballot.
Well, again, not disputing that 41,000 people signed petitions, but how do you know that 23 of those 1,000 didn't sign both petitions?
Okay, let me be very, very, very conservative. 15,652 people signed petitions. St. Petersburg voters, registered voters, signed petitions to be able to vote on what happens with their waterfront. And that also mimics the 1,500 respondents we got on the online survey for the selection of this lens. That also mimics the 700 people that was called. Is that better?
There is an alternative to that ballot, which I guess would be for City Council to act on it.
Yeah, I think that we think that the next 50 years needs to be guided by a good master plan for the waterfront. We think that if it takes a little bit of time to do that, that's good. I know most of the citizens of St. Petersburg think that the pier, the beautiful pier we have behind us, probably could be open in some way for the next couple of years while we're doing that. And that probably is something that the mayor should and the city should consider. But our position is that the lens is not correct. It's not the right function. It never did follow the directions of the task force. And we've many times shown how the task force failed to get to that process. And we think it should be started with a proper master plan.
So you're not opposed to seeing something here?
We are not opposed to seeing something on the waterfront. We are just wishing that a master plan that takes the whole thing and not just that basic sidewalk to nowhere stands out in front.
What do you think of the city's decision not to include the lens in ballot language for the August 27th primary?
I think we're working with the city to properly take care of making sure that the voters do understand what they're voting for, and I'm sure the city will help us get that done correctly.
Back to my first question. Yeah, you're going to get the word out, but how are you going to get the word out? What size of a campaign?
Well, we currently still have a very large group of volunteers who continuously support the effort to get us a better waterfront. And I think that that will be something that we will continue to challenge and something that we will continue to work on to make sure that everybody understands what the vote is about.
Is it likely to be a sizable campaign, or?
It will eventually, I'm sure, be a sizable campaign in the later days of the campaign.
You also have the same procedures we use called robocall. Instead of calling 700 people, we'll call the registered voters that sign these petitions that have phone numbers on record. They already signed the petition, they want to vote, so all we have to do is get them to come out and vote. As you know, if you follow St. Pete elections, the majority of them are decided by 2,000 to 3,000 votes. We're talking about 15,662 registered voters. So, and besides that fact, you talk about a waterfront master plan. When I ran and got reelected by almost 70% of the vote, the people voted for a waterfront master plan. So doing these things in silos make no sense. You're talking about doing a 10-year lease for the city to build a restaurant right here on this spot. We're not in the restaurant business. I mean, and that's not going to be done with a petition. So as you can see, when you don't put the voters up front, these are the type of things you run into. In 2010, I asked the mayor and my colleagues to let the people vote. And now we're here in 2013 with this dilemma. But all they ever wanted was to vote, and they did vote and say they wanted a master plan. And you don't do that in silos, but as you know, they're going to come forth to council with another special deal to give a 10-year lease on this water's edge. And the majority of the restaurants are on Beach Drive, and the closest one is on Bayshore, which is Fresco's. So we don't build stuff on this waterfront unless it's for city use, like a municipal hall or a city hall, municipal building, or a conference center. We're not in the restaurant building business, and that's what's going to take place to get around that referendum. So don't be rope-de-dope like Ali looking at what's happening with the mayor shutting down this pier. And be clear, that's not council, it's the mayor. 28 merchants, 400 jobs, and millions in tourist revenue is going to go poof midnight tonight because you'll have nothing there. Now, if he's going to leave the pier open for people to fish, they should be able to leave those merchants there so they can work until after the primary and feed their families, pay their mortgages, and earn their income. They invested a lot. They're the ones, when downtown was nothing, that stayed the course and made it possible for all this to be.
On Memorial Day, I was out there and I did get to talk to some of the employees who are losing their jobs. To elaborate a little bit further on that point of losing the employment, it's going to hit hard here.
Yes, it is. We just lost 800 jobs in the downtown core with Universal, the insurance going away. Now we're going to go, not we, the mayor is going to go with eyes wide open and kill 28 small businesses and put over 400 people on the street. I mean, it's great that the media is covering the last days of the period, but go out there and look at the personal stories, personal sacrifices and investment that these people in small business have made in this city. When we tramp around, we always talk about small business as the backbone of this city and this economy. And look at what we're doing with eyes wide open.
Do the concerned citizens of St. Petersburg have any issue with the city taking that structure down in 4 months?
We don't have a direct opinion on that, okay? But I'll tell you, when I talk to the citizens, they think that that structure should probably stay for a while to see how it can be used in the interim time or even afterwards. So we're not taking a position on what should replace. We think the citizens should help decide that. We think that should be a process, and we've got a process started, and we will continue to help that. That is our desire, to help the process get done correctly.
But if the mayor were to try to make it a moot point, if he were to try to move against that building more quickly, is there anyone ready to step up and try to get some sort of an injunction?
Well, I think there's a lot of issues that the city has to overcome to do that in regard to permits and other things. So there may be some time for that to get some thought, and maybe better minds and better thought will bring something better to the city of St. Petersburg, and that's our goal.
What changes if you do try to develop a new pier in the context of a waterfront master plan?
I can't tell you that because I haven't done a master plan that shows what we're going to do on the uplands, we're going to do between here and there. So I think all that has to be addressed as a unit. I think that's how we got into this trouble. We were supposed to have a master plan. We were supposed to move forward and have use the task force report. We did neither the task force report nor the master plan, and they threw something out there, and the city of St. Petersburg voters don't seem to care for it. And I don't think we should do that again. I think we should come up with a master plan. And you can ask me as many ways as you want, Steve. I'm going to keep answering you that same way.
Carl, why do you think the word lens was not in that ordinance yesterday? You got any insight on that?
I don't know. You know, we've seen since the beginning that since the lens issue of being able to see in the water is not capable. You know, you had somebody who designed this thing and brought it to St. Petersburg before they even visited St. Petersburg. So I think that it had some problems from the beginning, and I think the city's wondering what the name of the new structure should be if it is continued. But we're pretty sure that that will be taken care of on the 27th of August. Carl, would you like to have a few words?
If I could just speak to that more directly, I think it's rather clear that some of the folks in the administration, their intent was to muddy the waters, to make it as confusing as possible. It's very, it should be very clear to the voters. We owe the voters, regardless of our feelings, clear, understandable language. And it should be said that the city staff writes the title, not the people getting the petitions. And we owe it to the voters to have a title that makes it clear that what we're doing is voting to cancel the contract of Michael Maltzin, the designer of the lens project. And it should not have to be any more complicated than that. And if we don't tell the voters what the project is, that's purposeful deception as far as I'm concerned.
And as to the waterfront master plan, if you saw the renderings of the three finalists, the one that got selected, i.e. the lens, had a whole encompassing $150 million of features, okay? And that's what wooed the people. That was those snake oil or smoke and mirrors that they do to lure you in. But now it's mimicked down to just a sidewalk. You know, before it intertwined, it went over to Vinoy Park, it went down, it looked like the waterfront master plan. That's what it was. And the people was all wooed about that. So that's how that one went out. The other ones were just doing renderings of something to be out over the water to replace the pier. It wasn't doing a whole master plan, if you will. And that's why the initial rendering of the lens came in at $150 million. And now what you see now, what's left, after they took all that woo away, is sidewalk. And we already got a bunch of that.
Yeah, Carl and Wingate and I are going to be walking the sidewalks this afternoon and get a little bit of exercise. So, and we know that there's actually more sidewalks than we can walk on out here already. There's certainly, as I said before, we have currently one of the finest waterfronts in America, and we need to make sure that for the next 50 years that we leave it in that same kind of condition and move it forward that way. Thank you very much for y'all coming.
Thanks, gentlemen.
I wanted to make one positive comment. We have an opportunity after August 27th to take what is frankly our biggest waterfront park, which we use as a parking lot, and turn that into a real asset. And the reason we're unable to do that with the lens is because the I don't know what you want to call it, the swoop is so expensive to build that there's no money left to make any improvements here. And so one of the great opportunities is at the end of the day to essentially expand the waterfront parks, to pull into this big area waterfront that's surrounded by waterfront on our park, that's surrounded by waterfront on three sides. And for a very modest amount of money, we could have a huge increase in our waterfront park system that people would use. And so that is the opportunity that I hope we get to take starting August 28th.
I want to thank all the media, print, radio, and also video. I've been following and seeing a lot of it. You guys have been fair in covering it. You also have been very diligently with the stories of the people that are out there, and I really appreciate that, because I just did a historical destination of Jenny Hall Pool, and our mayor told me that, well, his statement was when he first took office, he was looking at numbers. He was a new mayor. He didn't realize the value of what that historical pool meant to the African American community. So now he says he's been educated. So hopefully with the stories that you're doing and the people out there, he can be educated enough to be compassionate to let these people earn a livelihood until after the vote and we get a clear and concise directions on what exactly they want to do. Thank you.
Do you think he'll wake up Monday and say, let's open it back up and get the people back to work?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you the way that was done, I think was irresponsible and mean. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, these people, I don't know. I was born and raised here. If you were here when all this started, it was nothing but the pier. There was no bay walk. There was no beach drive. Downtown, they were sleeping in storefronts, and you wouldn't dare come down after 5 o'clock. This is what got it all spurned up, you know. And they say the same thing about our Rays. The Rays got the whole vibrant city going, and we're fighting like all devil to get out on it. But I want to leave it with just one point. This asset is our fault as a city for not marketing it the way we should. Over Memorial Day weekend, it's over 2,000 people out there. The city did a wonderful job about we're closing it, we're doing fireworks. Why couldn't we do fireworks once a month, once a quarter, whatever, to get people to come down here? It's amazing. Everybody's coming now because we're putting out the word, we're shutting and doing all that. We're doing an excellent job of marketing. I like to see that intensity on all the assets that we own. And then they can also probably be more viable. As you know, in the heyday, the Pier made $1.8 million. And the subsidy was 1.4. The difference was, as it made more money, it lowers the subsidy. But if you're not marketing and getting people to come out and spend money and make money, because we get a percentage of everything that the people sell out there. So it behooves us to do that, and that wasn't being done. So yeah, you're gonna have problems. When you went out there on Saturday, I leave them a halfie and drive out there with my daughter at 8:30. It's a ghost town, and we passed the ordinance where you can stay open at 3 a.m. You can even sell liquor at 3 a.m. in the city. But we got a huge asset out here that's dark at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night on the weekends. Figure that one out. So we as a city and me as a councilman, I take some of that blame too, but unfortunately, we're limited to what we can do. We can't control staff. All we do is allocate funds. We cannot make them spend it, and we cannot make them use it to do promotions. So that's where it's at. But I do appreciate the media. You guys have been great. You guys have been Johnny on the spot. But like I said, don't be flamboozled. Cover it all. There's a lot of things moving that you don't see. It's not just what's happening behind us. So thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Everybody.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next week will be very illuminating.